Yes.
So let's dive into intuition. Can you, I mean, this is a word we all certainly know of, but can you help us understand what we mean when we talk about intuition?
Yes. So intuition, the first thing that comes to mind when we say intuition for me, and I let's see if it's for you the same thing, is being in tune with something, right?
Mm.
In tune with yourself. For me, is and I always talk about the inner voice of wisdom. So for me, intuition is really when you know something and you don't need the rational confirmation. So you just know it, right? For instance, many times I say something to my husband, and he asks me, "How do you know?" And I'm like, "I just know." Right?
Yeah.
This is the definition of intuition. I just know, I feel it in my body. I feel that this is it. Oh, I feel the energy of a place, and it's a really good place for me right now. But how do you know? I just know, right? And being in tune, really, intuition, in tune with yourself. So, and what's very important for me is that I have so many people that come to me and I'm like, I'm not intuitive. My husband is an example. He always says, I'm not intuitive. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think that you are very intuitive, but you haven't started believing and trusting in your intuition. And maybe
Mhm.
you yet don't know how to recognize the signs, right? So, what I say to people that ask me, how can I be more intuitive? For me, it's always a matter of playing around, experimenting, right? Doing something different from what you're doing normally. So, for instance, I mentioned most often with my clients, but also with my friends, if you're driving and you go to the supermarket, or if you go to work and you always drive the same way,
Mhm.
sometimes just listen. If there is something that tells you to just turn right or left, just do it, right? So just
Ooh.
experiment and see. Because sometimes, and it happens most of the time, if then you listen to your intuition and you turn left, maybe later you find out that there was a big accident, or they were working on the streets and you couldn't just go as fast as you wanted to go, right? So for me, it's really a matter of starting to listen to the signs and be very aware. So be very intentional of understanding what are the signs when you feel something. And then the more you do that, the more you understand that for you, maybe is that you feel a little bit of warmth in your heart area, or I feel goosebumps. I have goosebumps.
Mhm.
So I know, oh, okay, I recognize that. Or whatever, maybe some other people have some other things, because intuition is very personal, because our inner voice of wisdom is our own, right? It's very personal. But I think that we need to play more, because when you play, you're more in your body, you're more in the feeling, in the energy, and then you're not stuck in your intellect, in your
Yeah.
reasoning. That's why many people, I think, that they don't believe they're intuitive, because they don't get to the place where they allow themselves to just be a little bit looser and okay, I feel this. Let's see. Let's
Yeah.
go that way and allow themselves to be more, do things differently, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I always feel like when I'm driving, I get ideas as well. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, how am I going to write this idea down? I'm going to forget. I
Yeah.
need a system for that. But maybe when you say play, maybe it's that our part of our brain is occupied with this task, but we know how to do it.
Yes.
So we're not focused on it. And then we're maybe paying attention to other things. I wonder.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I have really awesome ideas when I'm walking.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Or, many people when for me, when I'm in the water too. So even if I'm taking a shower or if I'm swimming, oh, yes, I have so many ideas. And then I'm like, how can I write them down?
Yeah.
That's the thing, because you have then to remember them. But yes, when you do something that you don't need to really pay attention to, then you
Yeah.
can get more open. So what I say, you have to be open, and another thing is be non-judgmental, right?
Mm.
Because if we start having this feeling and we come with this piece and say, no, we block everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part because I always give the example with intuition of and it's funny how often this happens to me. I must be prone to accidents or something, but if I have a drink or something and I set it down, I if I set it near the edge, sometimes I just get this feeling, don't do that. Don't put it there. It's going to fall. I guess it doesn't have to be a drink, but anything. To me that's an example of my intuition because if I do it anyway, it always falls. And so I need to listen to this wisdom saying, don't do that because something is going to happen. And I
Yeah,
feel like that's an example maybe people can relate to, but it's also small. It
absolutely.
could
I
be
know.
much bigger, right?
Yeah, but it's we can start from that, right? Because we all have this. We're like, oh, because then you end up hearing people say, "Oh, I knew that." Yeah.
Mm.
But if you knew that and you didn't listen, then maybe next time is a message for you to start listening to it, right?
Yeah, what a
Because when you
good
say, I
point.
knew it, it's like, okay, it's late. You have to start trusting more, right?
What a good point. Yeah. And when we talked earlier, you said just be open to any little hint. And I like that. I think maybe I think maybe sometimes we don't trust ourselves because we know there's a negative voice often.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say? I don't even know if this is a question that's easy to answer, but how can we know if we're thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I should do it differently? How can we know? Is it our intuition or is it kind of our negative voice coming from fear or something? Is there a way to be able to know that?
I don't know if it's there is a way I can tell you what's my way because
Hmm.
I I I thought about it too because of course I have the negative voice too.
Yes.
And what I feel is that the intuition is an expansion. You feel an expansion in your body, right? It's like ooh, yes. But the negative gives you a constricting energy. It's like so that's how I recognize my own negative voice or intuition. Uh,
Yes.
that's what I feel in my body. I really feel, and that's also if I ask you a question that has for you a yes answer, or if I ask you a question that has for you a no answer, you feel the difference in your body.
Hmm.
And I feel that the same thing with a negative voice or your intuition. Intuition knows what's good for you. Your intuition really wants the best for you. So of course you have this yes in opening it. I want to go towards that, right? The negative wants to keep you safe at the end, right? So you're like, oh,
Yes.
I don't want to get hurt. It's like, and then you just get a little bit smaller. That's a constrictive energy that I don't know if I explain it.
Yes. I actually really love that explanation, and listeners may want to rewind and listen to that again. I think you said it perfectly because I'm thinking, even in the case where I'm, setting a drink on the edge of the table and my intuition is saying, don't do that. If I listen and I move the drink, I still feel good.
Yeah,
So I get what you're saying about expansive. It's good, it's freeing, it's bigger even in this case where my intuition is saying don't do that. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, good. I'm happy. Also, because then when your drink fall down, you really get it.
Yeah.
Ah, why did I do that? Right.
Yes. And I think we really can get better at recognizing this. We can really practice and get better. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yes. It's another skill, right? So we can train it. Absolutely, we can train it. And of course, there are people that are born and they're really intuitive. I think that I was born like that, right? So
Yeah.
yes, but I see that I have more tools now to recognize it quicker than before.
Yeah.
But I see with my clients, I have many clients that come to me, and then they really. I always work on the intuition, of course, with my clients. And at the beginning, they're like my husband. Oh no, I'm not intuitive. And then by the time we finish, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, I know. They have this knowing, and it's super cool to see.
I love that. So you said the idea of when you're driving somewhere that you always go to listen for your intuition, and if it says to go a different way, do it. I love that. What are some other things that you help your clients do to start getting better at recognizing this?
Another thing is also to, and it happens to everyone, I think, if you start thinking about someone, I say just check in with this person, the person, right?
Ah,
Send their text, send him call this person, uh, because there is always we receive messages, right? And our energetic body just feels before we do. So if you start doing these little things, then you have the confirmation that your intuition was right. Then you start seeing it that it's a natural part of you, and you start having another power, superpower. Now, for me, intuition is a superpower. So this is another small thing, yes. Or really, what I ask them is when you have to take a decision, and I mentioned the yes and no before, but when you have to take a decision, really, instead of having the list of pro and cons, ask yourself the question and listen to how your body reacts, right?
mm.
And you can start with question that you need to train yourself, right? If you have if your favorite meal is I'm talking about Italian meal, of course, here.
We
like
love Italian food here, so
like carbonara. And so you ask yourself, do you like carbonara? And you have an explosive yes. And then you ask yourself, do you like what is a food that is not good? Um, Peas, I say small, right?
wow, I feel like we're reading each other because I really hate peas.
Yes. So imagine then you have a big no, right? So then you train yourself with this. It's a silly exercise, but it's important because you have a very different reactions, two very different reactions to the yes and to the no. So then you can bring this tool, this superpower to bigger decisions. So when you are like, should I quit my job or no? This is a big decision, right? Then if you
Right.
feel yes or no, or should I date this person? You can have this, and I think it's super helpful. And I have all these things. My client do all these things. Yes.
I love that exercise because I guess what you're doing with the food is you're trying to learn how to feel what intuition feels like in your body,
Yeah.
right? What
Yes.
does it feel like when it's a good thing? What does it feel like when it's not? And then, yes, I can see how maybe you would trust how you feel in other situations if you can recognize it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
love
it's
that.
a it's a little training.
Yeah, yeah. And such an easy exercise because as you were talking about the food, I was sitting here thinking, well, how does that sentence make me feel? And so when we ask ourselves questions, it's kind of a should I sort of question, like do I want this or do I want that? Is that kind of what we're asking ourselves?
I wouldn't go for the should. I don't
Mm,
like the should. The should trap. It's more a matter when you're training yourself with intuition, you start using the feeling,
yeah.
right? So how do I feel about this?
Okay.
Like, how do
Yeah.
you feel about cold water, or how do you feel about a tea versus coffee? It's just we need to start changing the language that we use too, because intuition is really about feeling. What you feel in your body, what you feel is really different than what you think, right? And
Yes.
then should is very much connected to the thinking part.
Good point. Good point. We may have both accidentally said should. That's a good point. So how do I feel about this? How do I feel about that? And I fully agree, because even if we're not talking about intuition, I spent a lot of years trying to even learn how to recognize what emotion I was feeling at any particular time. I couldn't name it.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah,
And I find that a lot of people struggle with that, just even recognizing how do I feel right now. So the practice is powerful.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we're learning how to do intuition. We're learning how to listen to these little thoughts. I love what you said about if someone comes to mind, reach out to them. I actually did a little Take Five Friday episode saying, reach out to people. It's a
Yeah,
good thing to do. So there we go.
yeah.
Perfect. So now, tell us a little bit about, you've created a tool that you use in your coaching, I know, and it helps people to ask themselves powerful questions. And so maybe we need to entitle this episode Intuition and Powerful Questions. We'll see. But tell us about this tool, 52 Keys, that you have come up with.
Yes, it's a card deck, coaching card deck, and I created it a few years ago. After the story is funny because I had an argument with my husband, and then I needed, of course, some alone time to calm down. So I went into my office, and I always have pens and paper with me. Always, I'm not digital. I need to write down everything, and I had a pile of sticky notes and some colorful pens, and I felt the need to just start writing. And I wrote a series of questions. I don't know, they just came. I think it was really a download at the time. And then I had the whiteboard, and I decided to, sticky notes, to just put them in the whiteboard. And I counted them, and there were 52. And I was, there is
Hmm.
something about this, right? 52, like the weeks. So, and then uh, I just read the question, and I was, wow, these are really interesting questions. And I went through them myself. So I started journaling about the question, and I saw that they were very powerful. So I decided to make a deck out of it. The very first deck was a very colorful one, and was fun. And I brought these cards to parties, and I would just draw a card for my friends. And it was amazing because the right question came out the whole time. So then I decided to bring them to the coaching, right?
Mhm.
I thought that, wow, yeah, because I really believe that when you start asking yourself the right question, so powerful question, but the right question, then you start having the right answer. Sometimes we are stuck because we don't ask ourselves the right question. We ask a question like, why did it happen to me? Instead of, what can I learn from this? Right?
Ah, yes, yes, yes. I don't want to get us sidetracked in the middle of your story, but I might want to come back to that. But continue.
Yes, we come back to that. And so I started using them in every single coaching session. And what I do is that we have the session, and then at the very end, I draw a card for my clients. And it's amazing because it's always related to the topic we are talking about, and it gives them a little deeper insight, right? So they can go back and journal to that and have a even bigger insight after the coaching session. So then I really created the with a friend of mine that is a designer, visual communicator. He was really excited about this and said, I want to do something. So for every question, he drew a key, and I show you. And then maybe I can draw a card for you.
Yes.
For
Oh,
first,
lovely.
there is one different key because what questions are really keys to open the door to our souls. That's what I think they are, right? And of course, I love them and my clients too. And right now, I decided that I want to get them out in the world too, because
Yes.
many people ask me about them. And whenever I have, although I am very intuitive, sometimes I have, okay, I need something here. So I go to my deck and it gives me the right question. And I was, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah.
I love that. And just to go back to asking the right questions for just a second, it's such a powerful thing because I'm a very analytical person. And so those of you who are analytical out there might really fall into this trap with me. But if we spend time asking ourselves, as you said, why didn't this work? Or why didn't that go well? Or why do I not have the clients I want? Or whatever it is, then our brains start looking around to find the
Yeah.
reason why it's bad, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we change how we ask the questions, we want to ask something and allow our brain to look around for the good stuff. How am I going to
Abs-
get better? Or,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, because our brain always wants to give you an answer. So we might as well ask ourselves really, really good questions. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So you absolutely can ask me a question, but let me ask you one thing before we do that.
Yes.
If somebody wanted to get these cards, I know we're going to have a link in the show notes.
Yes.
How would you say somebody might use them on their own?
I think that like any deck that you might have, so you just think about something. Maybe in this case, you don't think about a question, of course, but you think about something that maybe you're struggling with, or if you need some clarity about some topic, and then you just shuffle. And what I ask my clients when I do, because I do them for them, because we do coaching online, I ask them, let me know when you feel. So I'm training them while I'm shuffling the deck. Tell me when you feel that it's okay, right? So then when you feel that it's okay, you just stop, and then you can decide to just draw. You just put them down and just feel when is the right card, or just decide that you're getting the with your left hand you're getting one, or your right. You just really get in contact with what you feel in that moment, and the right card will show up for you. And then you just need to listen to say out loud the question and look at the key, because every key gives you really something. The key part is very important too. You just stay there, and it allows you to really go inside by looking at the key, and then take some time to journal about it. That's because
I
sometimes
love it.
we immediately have the answer, but sometimes we just need to go a little bit and ponder the question, and maybe after one day or two you have another insight, right? Yeah.
Yes. Very true because things are working in the back of our mind and yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
perfect. I think it's really an interesting tool because a lot of people maybe resist the idea of journaling or, creating a habit like that, thinking, well, I don't know what to write. And
Yeah.
so this it becomes a tool for that.
Yes. And I had some people that tell me I don't want to journal. So what I suggest them to do, I think it's a small trick that they can use then to go back to the journaling part, is that you can get your phone and then record and say out loud things.
Ah, yes.
I think it's very powerful too, because then you re-listen to that and you can catch yourself and things that are important. Because not everybody wants to journal. So that's I came up with this. I said, okay, you don't need to journal, but if you say it's very important. Journaling is important because you put your thoughts and in the paper, and then you can see it, and it just goes right this way. But also if you journal out loud, it's like having a conversation. That's very powerful when you have a conversation, and you know that because coaching is having this kind of
Yes.
conversation. So it's important to say things out loud and bring them outside of your mind, right? Uh,
Yes.
in Italian, what I tell my clients that in Italian, mind is mente, and we say that la mente mente, so the mind is lying.
Mm.
Because if you keep everything inside, you cannot catch the lies. But if you either journal or you say out loud things and then you listen it back, you can catch the lie. It's very important.
I really love, I'm going to have to remember to use this quote from you. If you keep everything inside, you can't catch the lies. What a great way to put it. Yes, because our thoughts do create stories that are not true, and we
Yeah,
want to catch them.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Perfectly said. Okay, cool. Well, listeners, there will be a link in the show notes if you want these 52 keys, because this is very cool. And in the meantime, I'm happy for you to draw a card for me if you would like to do that.
Wonderful. Yes, I would love to. Okay, let me clear the deck. Okay, now I'm just gonna shuffle, and when you feel that it's time to stop, you tell me, okay?
Okay,
Okay, so I'm starting.
I don't want to wait too long on the podcast. So let's say stop.
Stop. Okay. So now, do you want me to use my right hand, my left hand, or do you want the one on top?
Right hand.
Right hand. Okay. Now, do you want the right or the left?
Right.
Wow. So it's card number 4, and I think that also it's important the number. And it says, "Who do you want to be?"
Ooh, interesting. You know what? I love this because it for me it makes me think, as you said, it always seems to be an appropriate
Yeah,
thing. Who do I want to be right now is relevant to my personal life as well as my professional life. And so I don't know that I'm going to go into that right now, but I'm making
for you.
decisions
For
for
you.
sure that I can tell I need to think about. So yeah, that gives me some direction to think it through. I love it.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.